whatever you are doing right now, please take a deep breath. Please sit back in your chair. Please relax. That's what I want y'all to do. Please relax. Because you're about to take a bumpy ride with yours truly, Ryan Thomas. This is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Coming to you live on Spreaker.com, YouTube, Facebook, and last but not least, Twitter. Also, you can follow me on the official Thomas Take Sports Podcast Instagram, as I've really been posting a lot in the story section, really adding a lot to that end of things. And for those of you that don't know, I just did go live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel with vlog, video, whatever you want to call it. You can see my handsome mug on the channel talking about the UFC 225 event. And in the midst of that, I ran out of time. I had to stop and start over again. I had to make a very important phone call. And I apologize to those of you that were watching on that side of things, wondering when or why I didn't talk about the main event, obviously. But I wanted to dedicate the main event in a separate episode, in a separate piece, so that people that wanted to see the main event stuff, it would be in a separate link. I want to dedicate 15 minutes to this fight. So, let's get right to it. Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero was the UFC 225 main event. Going into the fight, Yoel Romero missed weight for the second time in a row in his second straight title fight. The last title fight was the UFC interim title fight versus Luke Rockhold in Australia. Robert Whittaker was originally slated to fight Rockhold in that fight, had to pull out due to an injury. Romero steps in on short notice, misses weight. So if Romero won that fight versus Rockhold, he wouldn't be rewarded with the interim title, but it would cinch him a number one contendership slot in the rankings. And he would get that highly coveted rematch with Robert Whittaker, where when they first originally fought, that fight was for the UFC middleweight interim title. So a lot of confusion in this UFC middleweight division. It all stemmed from Rockhold's knockout at the left hook, the left hand of Michael Bisping. Everything went downhill from there in terms of the division. You know, it was a circus. It was fun while it lasted. Bisping's career was pretty fun. That resurgence that he had towards the end was pretty fun, but it has led us to some murky waters in this UFC middleweight division. There's no doubt about it. And Whittaker and Romero, when it was announced that Yoel Romero had missed weight for this fight, I did a separate piece on that. That was actually the last audio podcast that I did. It says, Yoel Romero misses weight. What is going on? What is going on referred to the fact that UFC President Dana White wants to change the weigh-ins from early in the morning to the afternoon, which would give fighters less time to replenish their bodies and more time to essentially cut weight, which I think is ridiculous. Personally, I really do think it's ridiculous. Now, I think it's ridiculous because it punishes the fighters that have made the weight the right way, the way that the UFC should have, where the fighters are allowed more time to replenish their bodies. They weigh in earlier. They have months upon months, weeks upon weeks to prepare and start this weight cut. And they're doing it wrong. That's on them. The fighters that abide by that have made weight time and time again, should be rewarded and shouldn't be neglected. And that's what's happening. I think Dana White is a little bit off his rocker on this. So I wanted to start by saying that Yoel Romero missing weight, it could affect the entire UFC, which I think is a joke. If anything, Yoel Romero missing weight should only have affected his career. If he's going to miss weight for 2 straight title fights, that's on him. Should he have, should it be up to the other fighter to fight someone who misses weight? No. It should be up to the promotion. The promotion should say, if any fighter misses weight that participates in the main event, that fight is off. That fight is not going to take place. And that's the way it should be, to me. It will definitely change things in terms of the likelihood that it doesn't happen will go way up, because fighters will not want to miss weight. They will work really, really hard, do their due diligence, make the weight, not miss the weight, knowing that they will get paid extra to make weight in this main event because they get paid more to be in the main event, obviously. That should eliminate the issue. Or if you miss weight for a main event, you're suspended. You're suspended for 6 to 8 months with no pay and cannot compete for that duration of time. We really need to start cracking down on the punishment rather than the realignment of the policy that this currently sits at right now. The alignment of this policy should not change, but Dana White wants it to change. And usually when Dana White wants something, he gets it. So the judges for this fight, Sal D'Amato, Chris Lee, Brian Pucillo. You go to MMADecisions.com, and as I look at it, Sal D'Amato had the fight scored 47-48. Chris Lee had the fight 48-47. Brian Pucillo had it 48-47. So 2 of the 3 judges scored it for Whittaker, which allowed it to be the split decision that it was. The judges, Chris Lee and Brian Pucillo, that had this fight going 48-47, oddly enough, which I will say oddly enough because it is a rarity, had the rounds going the exact same way. Had Whittaker winning round 1 and round 2, had Romero winning round 3 and round 5. So they had Whittaker winning 1, 2, and 4, and 5. Had Whittaker winning 1, 2, and 4. Pucillo and Lee had Whittaker winning 1, 2, and 4, and Romero winning rounds 3 and 5. Now the real question is whether or not this fight should have produced a 10-8, what is called a 10-8 round. And Chris Lee having Whittaker win that 4th round, while Sal D'Amato had Whittaker winning the first 2 rounds and Whittaker winning 3, 4, and 5. If someone puts in a 10-8 round for Romero, that fight would then be a draw. Let me make my own scorecard. Let's just say my own scorecard has Romero winning round 1, which I think he did. Let's just say that I have him winning round 2, which I think he did. Let's say I have Romero winning round 3, which all 3 judges on this card had Romero winning round 3. And if you hear clicking in the background, it's because I am on my laptop with the mic hooked up to it, recording the podcast right now. So I apologize for that. Let's just say that I have Romero winning the 5th and final round by a score of 10-8, 10-8, or we just throw a 10-8 round in there, which that would constitute. So let's do that. We have my scorecard says that Whittaker Romero. My scorecard is Whittaker 10-9 in the first round, 10-9 in the second, a 10-9 for Romero in the third, a 10-9 for Whittaker in the fourth, and a 10-8 round in the 5th and final round, which would regulate that to be a draw. And the media scored this fight. There's guys, I can look at all the guys that are credentialed. Nick Baldwin of Bloody Elbow ruled this a draw. Mike Strauss, 47-47 draw. Alexander Lee, 47-47. Dane Fox, 47-47. Matthew Wells, 47-47. Steve Duncan, 47-47. Wesley Riddle, 47-47. Drake Riggs, 47-47. Guys with prominence, Phil Murphy of ESPN, 47-48 for Romero. Jim Edwards, 47-48 Romero. Kendrick Johnson of The Ring Magazine, 47-48 Romero. Danny Segura of MMAfighting.com, 47-48 Romero. So this is a very controversial decision. And going into this fight, this would have been for the undisputed UFC middleweight title. Where, had Romero not missed weight, this would have been a real title fight. With Romero missing weight, forfeiting 20% of his purse. The commission told Romero he can no longer cut weight. He will not be given a second hour, which was unprecedented and very odd, which should definitely be reviewed by the UFC, that they did not allow him that ample opportunity that he was allowed to cut the extra weight. We have to note that. When throwing shade at Romero, you do have to throw that in there, that the commission said, no, you will not continue to cut weight. With Whittaker, though, winning this fight, he would retain his title. With Romero winning it, Whittaker would still retain his title. So, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me whatever you want, but there is more than enough reason to think that there is a little bit of a conspiracy at hand here, and that there's some things to take into question. When Chris Lee scores the fight 10-9 in the fourth round, and Brian Pucillo scores that fourth round 10-9 for Whittaker, Lee and Pucillo score the fourth round for Whittaker, and Sal D'Amato scores it 10-9. Sal D'Amato is a very reputable judge. I can go online, anyone can go online and look at his judging record. He's a pretty fair judge. He judged 4 fights, UFC 225, Bektic and Lamas. He scored for Lamas, which I think that's atrocious. But I do think that his scoring of Covington versus Dos Anjos, 49-46, was fair. I thought that was fair. I thought that was a 4-round win for Covington. So, the Lamas Bektic fight was close. He went the other way with it, just like he did on this night. So maybe he scores aggression with punches higher than he would someone that's initiating the takedown, or maybe he scores someone that's initiating the takedown higher than Lee and Pucillo. That is what I think D'Amato sided with in terms of Romero, because when Romero had Whittaker rocked in those later rounds, he was initiating the takedown. He was doing those things to try to maintain top position. But I can't help but wonder, did Chris Lee and Brian Pucillo say to themselves, if we give this to the other guy, it demeans the value of this fight? And it would, because Yoel Romero wouldn't deserve a win over Robert Whittaker, because Yoel Romero did not deserve to have this opportunity because he missed weight. You sign on that contract, you say you're going to make weight. That's the main job of a fighter, is to make weight for fight night. And he didn't. Whether the commission didn't give him enough time or not, his initial first attempt where he was supposed to make weight, he did not. He was a pound over. And if Yoel Romero can't make weight, which it seems as if he can't, especially in title fights, he should be fighting at 205. I don't care if he's 6 foot or 5'11 or whatever he may be. Robert Whittaker is a much more slight body, but more lean. Yoel Romero is jacked, and he hits like a Mack truck at 185. He could easily move up to 205 and have a solid career and be a very interesting contender in that division that, frankly, desperately needs it. So that is my take. I do think these judges scored it the right way. I did see Whittaker winning the fight, but I almost wonder, did they score it from the bottom of their heart? They really believe that Whittaker won? Or did they give it to Whittaker because Yoel Romero did not deserve it? When I submit the scorecard of 47-47 and I show the results of my scorecard, compare it on MMADecisions.com, 39.4% out of 568 scorecards that were submitted by MMA fans around the world believed that the fight was a draw. As did I. I would have scored that fifth and final round a 10-8 round. I believed that it was a true 10-8 round and that Yoel Romero should have been given a draw. You rule this fight a draw, it does allow the UFC to make this fight once again. I'm Ryan Thomas. It was the Thomas Take. Take care, everybody.